talk on a goddess. Since from last 2 3 days, the scholars are discussing these important aspects of Indian iconography, where the multiple elements, principles had tried to put together in visual depictions and visual expression, and these visual expressions covers uh, the layers of meaning. It's not just only one meaning, but we could see that the layers of the meaning are found together in single sculpture representation. What we can say here, every image of Indian iconographic tradition itself is a synchronistic icon because it bears the various characters, it bears the various features, it bears the various uh, principles, philosophical, personal, all these things can be extracted through this visual depiction. And whereas in the gradual development of the Indian art, we could see that how the imageries were compiled, had the imagery, how the imageries were composed. In recent studies of the Doris Srinivasan, she had tried to examine these principle of multicity in Indian art, beginning from the early period till to date, how the various conceptualities were responsible for the expression of this multiple meaning, like the multiple hands, multiple heads, a number of attributes. All this represent something important to understand the religious process, to understand the cultural process, and other varied aspect. Now here, uh, I will going to get discuss the goddess Gauri Parvati. Among the Shaktis, Parvati is a very prominent goddess. Uh, she's not only important for the uh, Shakti or the Shaktism, but she also is very important for understanding the nature of the Shaivism and the Shaivite tradition. So only goddess whose multiple forms are tried to discuss in a genre of literature, and her iconography are found in very wider region, and the frequency of the images seen of the Parvati that is innumerable. So hence it is need to see this goddess in iconographic perspective, and after understanding of this goddess through the iconographic perspective, we should have to look that why the certain forms, why the certain imageries were got the popularity, and what could be the reason behind the popularity of this goddess. So this is a very simple aspect I'm going to get discuss in my presentation. So first we'll try to cover these selected points, literary accounts of the Gauri Parvati. Then we shall try to discuss the possible precursor of the goddess. Again, we'll try to understand the iconographical formalization and its early evidence. And we'll try to discuss the spread and variation of the Gauri Parvati. And finally, we'll try to discuss the summary and observation based on all these studies. The iconography of the Parvati was discussed by the several scholars. When we reach into the early medieval period, in post-Gupta period, we see a proliferation of the iconographic depiction of goddess Parvati. And in this period, especially onwards 6th, 7th century CE, the iconography of the Parvati were started to get form in its regional variation. There are some specific region where the particular form of the Parvati was seen, was popular. So broadly, what we can see in its regional development in post-Gupta period, the peninsular India had formed a different entity, especially Deccan and South India. Western India also has its own status when it's come to the iconographic depiction of the Parvati. Central India obviously had helped to enhance the iconographic feature of the Parvati. Special traditions were seen in Eastern India since it's a very close affinity with the Shaktism and the later development of the Shaktism. Even the inter and intra-religious interaction also was responsible for the making of goddess Parvati in Eastern India and her number of manifestations. In North India also, we could see similar phenomena, especially in the region of the Kashmir and the Gandhar, where the images of the Parvati can be seen in its own nature. So very diverse background, very diverse features can be seen. Into the realm of the iconography, especially in the Shakta iconography, the synchronistic imageries of the Shaktis are not discussed as such. That's a very important lacuna we could see in studies. But in recent studies of these scholars had tried to bring these important aspects of Indian iconography. Male god had discussed in a different way, like Harihara, Harihara Pitamaha, Arka, Brahma, Surya, Surya, Arka. So all these types of the composition of the male deities are discussed by the several scholars. Scholars have tried to explore the meaning behind these imagery. Scholars have tried to examine the sectarian affiliation of these deities and other important features. In case of the Parvati, the very early comprehensive work can be seen did by the R.D. Trivedi, the iconography of Parvati, and followed by a very important work done by the Bhattacharya for the Eastern Indian iconography. And for the discussion of the Western Indian iconography of the Parvati, the very important monograph published by the N.P. Joshi, entitled as the Tapaswini Parvati, the iconographical study of Parvati in penance. Now here, the work of N.P. Joshi is a very important research, especially he had taken in consideration the amount of the images reported in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, and taking that number, he had tried to analyze the iconographic development of the Parvati, spread of the Parvati imagery and its subsequent variations. So these are some important studies which can be taken as a pure iconographic studies on imagery of the Parvati. Now here, what scholar had tried to discuss is that the imagery of the Parvati are seen in two important phases. The first phase, as per the discussion found in Puranas like Matsya Puran, Linga Puran, Padma Puran, Shiva Puran, all these Puranas discusses the life of Parvati in different context. The Parvati's relation with the Shiva, Parvati's relation with the Ganpati, Parvati's relation with the Kartikeya, and other important events of her life. So what it comes through the Puranic legends and narration is that there are three important penance was did by the Parvati. One was the before the marriage, the pre-marriage penance, and the two penance she had performed after the marriage. Now these three penance of the Parvati was responsible for the multiple manifestations of the Parvati. For example, Parvati can be seen in a pre-marriage penance, and then after that penance she had achieved Shiva as her husband, and after her marriage, then one day Shiva had tried to flirt with the Parvati, and in that she had commented on the color of the Parvati, that Parvati is a dark and I am a fair. So taking that comment seriously, again Parvati had performed the penance, and after the performance of that penance, she had got the fair color, and which she became a Gauri. So when this is an important transition, Parvati transform into the Gauri. Now this transcendency into the manifestation of the deity, it's not only a narration or the story of the Parvati, but it bears the so many features, and these features are need to explore, especially why this it came into the such a form, why these types of the narratives were formed, and what how it may have been influenced over the contemporary sectarian formation of the Shaktism in general and the cult of Parvati in particular. So, okay, so the multiple variations are seen in these Puranas, especially Matsya Puran, Linga Puran, Padma Puran, and as per the historical development of this Puranic narration, what it indicates that the Tapas Parvati, the penance is taken as an important background for the representation of the imagery of the Parvati. It's very common, especially the Tapasa Parvati or the Tapaswini Parvati is an integral part of the character of the Parvati. It also indicates her determination, and also it indicates the very powerful nature of the goddess. And entire life sketch of the Parvati had tried to define on the basis of this description, and ultimately vice versa, this description may have influenced the gradual iconographic development of the Parvati. Now here some of the prominent Shilpa text discusses the iconographic prescription and the description of the goddess Parvati. That includes the Agni Puran, one of the earliest iconographic dhyana or its descriptions are found in this text, and followed by Agni Puran. The most important is Aparajita Pricha. In Aparajita Pricha, it gives the description of the Parvati, and also it follows the forms of the Parvati or the different forms of the Parvati, especially the multiple forms of the Gauri and Parvati. The text like Devata Murti Prakranam also discusses the various forms of the Parvati. Then Rupamandanam also discusses the forms of the Parvati and the iconography of the Parvati. Hemadri in his Chaturvarga Chintamani had cited the text Vishwakarma Shastra, and taking a note of the Vishwakarma Shastra, Hemadri had tried to discuss the imagery of the Parvati. Now we know that the how to deal the complexity of these textual traditions, especially the Puranic legends and the narrations, how it can be get correlated with the iconographic depiction, and we are aware that how the Shilpa text can be tackled with the iconographic depiction. Now, when we look to the textual tradition, especially the Shilpa text, then we will have to look at how the regional formation, how the regional connotations were seen influencing the iconographic formation of the contemporary period. Okay, so this we should have to look in a different way. Then the second point that we are going to discuss is the possible precursor of the goddess. That's a different story altogether. We try to go into the detail of those things. Then the iconographic formulation. First, we'll try to discuss the iconographic formulation and its early evidence. As per the available examples, the earliest depiction of the so-called Gauri Parvati are noticed at cave number 23 at Ellora. Look at here the goddess, then followed by observing the iconography depiction, we'll try to go into the further details. Now, if you see here, the fire altar shown besides to the goddess, and she is shown holding Akshamala, that is in Varada Mudra, holding a Kamandalu, okay. And she is having a Jata Mukutta. The cloth are clearly seen, especially the lower garment, the very specific ornament shown. And beside to her head, it has a depiction of the Shivalinga from her right side, and from her left side it has a depiction of the Ganpati. Now this is a very important formalization. It's not only represents the Parvati, but together the depiction of the Shivalinga and Ganpati also can be seen. So as per the evidence, what we can say that the Ellora might have experimented these types of the imagery in its earliest date. So that could be placed around 7th century CE. So another example we'll try to see. This is more mature depiction can be seen at cave number 16 at Kailash, known as Kailash temple at Ellora. Can you see carefully? Look at here, the goddess is shown standing over the Padma Pitha. Then again, the two fire altars are shown. Now here she is with the four hands. The lower two hands are broken, so difficult to figure out, but we can assert that could be in one of her hands she might was holding a Akshamala, and in one hand she could have been holding a Kamandalu as per the previous image. And here you can see she is shown now holding a Linga and Ganpati. Now here this also is an important development in its artistic feature. Especially here in her both upper hand she is holding a lotus, and over the lotus petals these two deities are shown. Here the Linga is shown as a Shiva's representation, and the Ganpati is shown in its iconographic depiction. Okay, so it can be dated to the 8th century CE as per the dating given for the Kailash temple at Ellora. Okay, in Maharashtra, at the several temples, especially at the Shaivite temples, the images of the goddess Gauri Parvati is very common. And in structural temples, one of the earliest depictions are noticed at Ambarnath temple, situated in Thane district of Maharashtra. Now here you can see more mature features can be seen around 11th century CE or mid of 11th century CE. Now you can see here the Akshamala in Varada Mudra holding a Kamandalu. Now the same feature was carried forward that we have observed at Kailash cave. She is holding a lotus birds, and over the lotus the Shivalinga can be seen and the Ganpati can be seen. Very rare, the dancing Gauri Parvati is observed at Amruteshwar temple at Ratanwadi in Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra. It is on one of the pilaster of the temple. She is shown in Chatura Mudra with the very ornate drapery and the ornaments. And she is shown holding a lotus bird now, and in between the lotus petal, the Shivalinga and Ganpati can be seen. Okay, these are the some selected examples of the Maharashtra. And here at Ratanwadi, she is shown flanked by the two attendants. Okay, these are some examples of the Central India. This is one example quite early found in Madhya Pradesh, now kept in Bhopal Birla Museum. Look at here, she is shown in standing posture. Her mount is shown here, lion. Now here, what we can see gradually, the fire altars are disappeared. She is plainly standing, holding Akshamala and Kamandalu, holding Shivalinga and Ganpati. Lotus petal are continued. This is one example from the Gujarat. Gujarat also has a number of images of Gauri Parvati. So many variations also seen in her depiction. At least almost all Marugurjara temples of the Gujarat region, wherever there is a Shaivite appellation or the Shakta appellation, we could get the image of the Gauri Parvati in its prominent depiction. And here one example I tried to show here. Look at here, two female attendants are shown. As per the Puranic description and the Shilpa Shastra, it discusses the when the Parvati was formed as a Gauri. At that time, she was along with the Anucharis, or her friends were there, and the names of these friends also mentioned in textual tradition. Sometimes it mentions the 8 Anucharis, sometimes it mentions the 12 Anucharis. Some of them can be recognized through the textual description, what kind of the attributes they should hold. Here in this case of the Desert Mahadev temple, difficult, but you could see that how the two female attendants are shown along with the Gauri Parvati. Very ornate. Look at here, the Akshamala Kamandalu is very common, and she's shown holding Shivalinga and Ganpati along with the lotus birds. This is one example from the north of central India in Bundelkhand region. Image is found at Suhania, now kept in Gwalior Museum. Look at here. The hands are broken, but the male attendants can be seen. Her respective mounts are shown on both the sides. Lion is shown. Here the two female attendants also shown beside to the male attendants, and on top you could see a depiction of Shivalinga and Ganpati. So this is image from Khajuraho, now kept in Khajuraho Museum, may belong to the one of the temple at Khajuraho. Now you can see how the iconographic scheme of the Gauri Parvati image is evolved here. Now she had tried to come with the some regional notions, and she is following the regional iconographic text. Now you can see here the Gniya can be seen as her mount, the wild lizard, beneath to the Padma Pitha, and over which she is standing in Samapada posture. That's very common, found beginning from her earliest iconographic depiction. And then she is shown holding Ganapati and Shiva. But the position now here you can see changed. At the right side, the Ganapati can be seen, and the left side, Shiva can be seen in iconographic form. And whereas the upper Ratika of the back side of the image, or the Padapita of this image, is having the Brahma at one side, one Ratika, and the Vishnu in one of the Ratika, and other attendant deities are shown. Now here it fulfills the all iconographic scheme of the Gauri Parvati, where she is coming along with the Brahma and the Vishnu in the Ratika, and she is shown holding Ganapati and Shiva in iconographic depiction, and along with her respective attendants. This is one image, again one image from the Gujarat. Look at here. What we can see here, the full iconographic portrayal of the Ganapati and the Shiva, but they are detached from the hands of the Parvati. This also can be taken as important variation in Gauri Parvati. Okay. These are the some selected example where we could see depiction of the Gauri Parvati. Now what we can figure out through these depiction. So as per the textual description, there are a number of forms of the Parvati are discussed, especially the Gauri Parvati discussed. That includes the Uma Gauri, Siddha and Lalita Gauri, Savitri Gauri, Tripura Gauri, Kaushiki Gauri, Manasa Gauri, that also known as a Jagat Gauri, Shriya Gauri, Lajja Gauri, Kamada or Kumada Gauri, and Parvati Gauri. Okay. These are the some forms of the Gauri Parvati had cited in textual tradition, especially it is discussed in Puranas, and some of the Gauri Parvatis are seen discussed in the iconographic text. It's very interesting that the early imageries are seen in Deccan region, but her further expansion are seen in Western India. So these are the states where the images of the Gauri Parvati are prominently seen. The state like Gujarat, at least beginning from the 6th century CE to the onward 12th, 13th century CE, the image of the Gauri Parvati is seen very prominently. Same in the case of the Maharashtra also can be seen, especially after 10th, 11th century CE, especially over the structural temples, the images of the Gauri Parvati is seen very prominently across the Maharashtra. In Madhya Pradesh also, we observe the depiction of the Gauri Parvati at several places. One of its prominent depiction are seen at Udayeshwar temple at Udaipur in Vidisha district of Madhya Pradesh. That we'll discuss in the second half. Rajasthan also having a same pattern where from the 6th, 7th century CE onward 12th, 13th century CE, we could observe the depiction of the Gauri Parvati very prominently in various forms. Okay? Uttar Pradesh also has the same phenomena, and the Chhattisgarh. Very few images of the Gauri Parvati is reported in Chhattisgarh. In case of the Karnataka and the other South Indian states, hardly ever these types of the form it came to notice. Whatever published material I could try to explore, I found that nowhere these types of the form is reported in this region. It's again important question mark that how the Parvati may have received in this region, and how the various forms of the Parvati may could have been worshipped in these respective regions. So this we need to look carefully, especially how the Agamic traditions are discussing the imagery of the Parvati and the forms of the Parvati. Okay, so these are the some points that we can bring out while observation of the Gauri Parvati imagery found in Maharashtra. Okay. The images of the goddess Gauri Parvati are noticed beginning from the 7th-8th century CE. The worship of the goddess in this form was seen continue until 18th century. In Peshwa period also, in the Maratha paintings, in some of the stone images, the depiction of the Gauri Parvati are seen very prominently. Most of the images are observed in between 11th to 13th century CE. That's a very significant part of the image of the Gauri Parvati. Majority of the images are noticed depicted on exterior of the temple. Nowhere the prominent position of the Gauri Parvati is noticed. There are some exceptional examples, such as in Garbhagruha, the image of the Gauri Parvati are found at selected places. One such example noticed at Devdana in Nasik district of Maharashtra, and one image I personally have noticed at Maheshwar temple at Pimpri Kalga, where the image is enshrined in sanctorium, where the Shivalinga also is there as a preceding deity, and backside Deva poster, the representation of the Gauri Parvati can be seen. It means it started to get worshipped jointly. And one example can be seen in Madhya Pradesh, where the Gauri Parvati is seen worshipped along with the Shivlinga in Garbhagriha at Uddayeshwar temple at Udaipur. Okay, so these are some examples where the Gauri Parvati or the specific form of the Parvati may have taken as important iconographic depiction for the sanctum worship. She not remained as a icon of the exterior wall of the temple, but in some cases she accepted as a deity of the Garbhagriha. Okay. Now the important question is about the iconographic formalization and its early evidence, and how the precursor of the goddess Parvati or the Gauri Parvati can be seen. So what I would have to figure out is that, and the same indirectly had tried to support it by the N.P. Joshi, that the precursor of the Gauri Parvati can be noticed into the iconographic formation of Lajja Gauri. In these type of the images are noticed in its archaic form, such as the place like Kuninda in Andhra Pradesh. There such terracotta flakes are noticed where the Lajja Gauri is shown holding a Shivalinga in one of her hand and the Ganapati in one of her hand. That's very interesting. That is datable to the 4th-5th century CE. Before the formation of the Gauri Parvati in its typical iconographic form, the association of the Lajja Gauri is seen along with the Shivalinga and Ganpati. So these are some precursor can be seen, can be taken as a prototype of the Gauri Parvati seen into the formalization of the iconography of Lajja Gauri. This can be taken in a different way, in other way. Likewise, this also suggests that how the Lajja Gauri was started to get assimilate into the cult of Shaivism and the Shaktism, and or may she was started to get appropriate in these sects. And gradually, when the Lajja Gauri's iconography was formed in its fully visible expression, may the same was adopted into the iconographic depiction of the Gauri Parvati when she became in full anthropomorphic form in some of the posture holding Linga and the Ganapati one of her hand and the other. Then there is a possibility that the association of the Ganapati and the Shivalinga with the Parvati, when the cult of Parvati May was spread in North Central India, including the Deccan also, when the emergence of the Ganapati as a prominent sect was parallel process. Various sectarian splits also seen in the Shaivism, and along with that in Shaktism also, where you could see the rise of two important goddesses, a supreme goddess. Among them, Parvati was the supreme goddess, and one of her manifestation, the Mahishasura Mardini also was the supreme goddess. These two goddesses are seen coming, leading to the Shakta pantheon, and there within that realm of the Shakta pantheon, maybe the manifestation of the Parvati was taken an important place, and there the various forms of the Parvatis may have started to get represented in iconographic depiction, and there this Gauri Parvati had taken an important place among the iconographic scheme of the Shakti and the Shaktism. So this we can figure out through the available example. Very few example I have tried to show here. Look at here. This is one example from the Dhang from Gujarat, datable to the 6th-7th century CE. Prior to the Dhak images, there are several terracotta plaques and the stone plaques where the Lajja Gauri is shown holding a Shivalinga and Ganapati. Now here you can see Ganapati is shown beside to the Lajja Gauri as identified in scholars. Here you can see same image found at Dhak. Okay, look at here. Now one side is a Shivalinga. Okay, this is one example, and there also you could see a prominently Lajja Gauri shown holding a Shivalinga and Ganpati. Okay, these are some examples. Okay, now people have tried to assert that why Ganapati is there along with the Parvati, and why Ganapati is seen in a prominent position along with the Gauri Parvati image. So according to the Aparajita Pracha, the Linga and the Ganesha should appear only in the Gauri image. It's very clearly stated by the Aparajita Pracha form of the Parvati, but the Puranas have some interesting information to give regarding their association with the goddess. As per the Skanda Puran, it narrates that the Ganesha was not worshipped on the occasion of the Shiva's marriage with the Dakshayani, which ultimately had resulted in tragedy. Therefore, at the time of his second marriage, Shiva took precaution and asked Vishwakarma to have an image of Ganesha made of offer worship prescribed in the Vinayaka Shanti. So this is very specific reason is given that why the presence of the Ganpati is there. What we could figure out through this narration is that in the iconographic depiction, while in Kalyan Sundar form of the Shiva, we see a presence of the Ganpati in very prominent position. In other Puranic example, Puranic reference also, we can see that in Skanda Puran it mentioned that at the request of the Ganesha, Parvati had allowed him to accompany her when she had preparation for the penance to become Gauri. Now this is very interesting reference found in Skanda Puran, and maybe this was another reason why Ganesha is accompanied with the image of the Gauri Parvati. Sorry. According to Vaman Puran, it informs that in order to entertain Parvati in penance, her maid friend had made a beautiful luster terracotta figure of Shiva with a shula in hand, and subsequently the icon was named as a Bhadreshwara by Shiva himself. So this may also was a reason why the Shiva is in along with the Gauri and Parvati as per the reference of the Vaman Puran. As per this reference, the presence of the Shiva can be called as a Bhadreshwara. Okay? And according to Padma Puran, so there is a long list of the 108 devis associated with the different centers of the pilgrimage in the Padma Puran. The list includes the name of many Gauris, such as Savitri, Lalita, Gauri, Ramba, Parvati, Uma, etc. And there one name comes as a Lingadharini. So this also is a very particular name, Lingadharini, the wearing of the linga on her body. And here in this particular icon, she represented holding a Shivalinga on one of her hand. So these references we can take as an important point to discuss the association of Linga and the association of the Ganapati along with the synchronistic image of the Gauri and Parvati. What we could figure out all with this background with the layers of the meaning that inherits this image is the archaic notions of the goddess perhaps was resulted in the form of the goddess Gauri. That can be seen within the narratives of the multiple penance performed by the Parvati, and how the forms were tried to get formed in the later textual tradition and respective visual depiction. It is difficult to assert its original formation. However, based on the available evidence, it can be suggested that this particular secret image may was first introduced in the Deccan, and its prototype needs to be explored in the process of assimilation of goddess Lajja Gauri in the Deccan region. Onwards, 7th century CE, this form of the goddess gained an immense popularity and iconography scheme of the early medieval temples, especially in Central India, Central and North India. Same in case of the Maharashtra also. The images are mostly reported in northwestern and central India. In Maharashtra, it's very interesting that in early medieval period, these images are found in most of the Shaiva temples. So this is very interesting. And second phenomena is observed that these types of the images are found where there is a Trikuta shrine or the triple Garbhagruha can be seen. Together, total 16 images at one place can be seen at Udeshwar Temple, Udaipur. It's very interesting pattern can be seen there. Inside the 4 freestanding pillar of the Sabha Mandapa of Udeshwar Temple at Udaipur, the 16 Gauri Parvati images are noticed. This also suggests that how the Gauri Parvati was received in Nilkanteshwar Temple at Udaipur, or same is referred as Udeshwar Temple at Udaipur. So it need to discuss in a different perspective. Okay. Now, these are the some meaning which we can figure out. With observation of its visible nature, it can be stated that the image represents the principle of duality. So here the Gauri is one principle and the Parvati is principle, and we are aware that the Shakti or the Shaktism and the Shaivism stand onto the idea of the duality, and maybe this icon represent the same thing. How these two important aspects of the goddess represents the Dvaita or the dual aspects of the Shaktism. Puranic description also support this view that and how these philosophical allegories were seen, tried to get expressed through the iconographic depiction. With the close observation or the micro observation of these images, we can sketch out the lifespan of the Parvati. So this also is important feature we could figure out through the image of the Gauri Parvati. With the presence of the Shiva and Ganpati, Shiva here found in both the aspects, in Linga form, in Avyakta form also, and in the Vyakta form also, in iconographic depiction also. Ganpati is very prominently seen. This could be also is a important depiction to get portray a principle of the yoga, because Shiva represent the supreme asceticism. So maybe he is coming as a principle of the yoga, and Ganpati is accepted as a principle of the jnana. So she is holding a yoga and jnana in her upper 2 hands. So this we can say, and itself Parvati can be taken, Gauri Parvati can be taken as a expression of the bhakti, as a symbol of the bhakti here, because she had already performed the penance, she already had expressed her devotion towards the Shiva in different parts of her life, how she had performed a duty, and how she was the able daughter of the Parvata or Himalaya, how she was a wife of the Shiva, how she had performed all the duty as the wife of the Shiva, and then she also is a very qualified mother with its all aspects and all its gunas or all its merits. She is a mother of the Ganpati, she is a mother of the Kartikeya, and how she had nurtured them, and along with her personality as a normal woman and as a divine figure, these 2 aspects may have put together into the iconographic formulation of the Gauri Parvati, and ultimately what we can figure out. So now we'll move to the another meaning. The image also represents the most powerful nature of Parvati as supreme deity of Shakti. Why it is a supreme deity? Because together she is covering the entire family. She is not only remained a single, but she is controlling all the aspects of the Shaivism as well as the Shaktism and new emerging trend of the Ganapatya cult, because we know that how Ganpati became popular in the North Central India after 8th, 9th century. See how his imageries were seen in each and every temples, and where we see that how the separate independent cult of the Ganpati was forming in this region. And maybe this was taken in consideration. This may be taken into the Shakta realm, that where Parvati is shown as a supreme deity, and she is shown accommodating these two powerful phenomena of her family. That is Linga in the form of the accommodation of the Shaivism, and the Ganapati as her son, as her able son, who also became a part of the cult of Parvati. And there it combines the all aspects, and with that combined aspect, this composite image of the Gauri Parvati emerged. And maybe it was these reasons why this image was widely noticed, why this image was widely worshipped. So here my presentation ends.